Captain Sarah Chen stared at the screens in front of her. The readings made no sense. Hundreds of massive ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system without warning. They were not human ships. They were something else entirely. "Ma'am, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Torres from his station. It's a request to speak," Sarah nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered. A face appeared that looked almost human, but not quite. The being had pale blue skin and golden eyes. Scars covered its face, but they looked like marks of honor rather than wounds. When it spoke, its voice was deep and tired. "I am War Leader Kethval of the Kethmori Fleet. We seek passage through your space. We mean no harm to your people. We only wish to pass by and continue to the outer rim." Sarah leaned forward. She had heard of the Kethmori. The Galactic Confederation had sent messages about them. They called them dangerous criminals who had been kicked out for being too violent. But the being on the screen did not look like a criminal. He looked exhausted and desperate. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Why are you here? The Confederation told us you were exiled for violence against peaceful worlds." Kethval's golden eyes flashed with anger, but his voice stayed calm. "The Confederation tells many lies about us. We were banished because we would not abandon those who needed help. When raiders attacked the colony on Theta 7, we stayed to fight. The Confederation called us back. We refused. They said we were too violent, too dangerous for civilized space." Sarah studied the alien's face. She had spent years learning to read people, and everything about Kethval suggested he was telling the truth. His ship readings showed they were barely holding together. Many were leaking air and power. "How many of you are there?" she asked. 43 ships, nearly 1 million souls. Our children, our elders, are wounded. We have been traveling for months. Many ships are failing. We just need to pass through and find somewhere in the outer rim to build a new home." Sarah looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They were still the new kids, still trying to prove themselves. Taking in exiles would anger the Confederation, but Sarah had read the reports about Theta 7. The Confederation had indeed ordered all ships to withdraw when raiders attacked. Most species followed orders. Only the Kethmori stayed to fight. They saved over 1 million colonists, but the Confederation punished them for disobeying. "War Leader Kethval, we need to discuss this with our government. Can your ships hold position for now?" "Yes, but not for long. 3 of our vessels have critical failures. If we cannot repair them soon, they will be lost with all aboard." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Bring those 3 ships closer. We'll send repair teams." Her crew looked shocked. Lieutenant Torres whispered, "Ma'am, the Confederation said not to help them." Sarah stood up straight. "The Confederation isn't here. People are dying and we can help. That's what humans do." Over the next 6 hours, Earth's best engineers worked alongside Kethmori technicians to save the failing ships. Sarah was amazed by what she saw. The Kethmori were not the savage warriors the Confederation described. They were organized, intelligent, and incredibly grateful for help. Dr. James Okafor, Earth's top alien specialist, arrived to study the situation. He spent hours talking with Kethval and other Kethmori leaders. When he finished, he called Sarah aside. "Captain, these people are nothing like what we were told. They have a complex honor system based on protecting others. Their whole culture revolves around the idea that the strong must defend the weak. They were exiled because they cared more about saving lives than following orders." Sarah nodded. She had reached the same conclusion. "What do you think we should do?" "The right thing," James said simply. "Their ships are falling apart. They have children and sick people aboard. If we send them away, many will die before they reach the outer rim." That evening, Sarah received a call from Earth's President Martinez. The conversation was short and direct. "Captain, the Confederation is demanding we turn away the Kethmori immediately. They say harboring exiles is against galactic law. Sir, with respect, these people need help. Their ships are barely functional. They have families aboard." President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, what would you do if these were human refugees?" "I'd help them, sir. No question. Then help them. Offer them sanctuary on Luna Base and our orbital stations while they repair their ships. If the Confederation doesn't like it, they can come talk to me." Sarah smiled. This was why she loved serving Earth. Humans didn't always make the smart political choice, but they usually made the right moral choice. The next morning, Sarah called Kethval back. "War Leader, Earth officially offers temporary sanctuary to your people. You can dock at our moon base and orbital stations while you repair your ships and decide your next move. Kethaval stared at her for a long moment. His golden eyes filled with something Sarah had never seen in an alien before. Tears. Captain Chen, why would you risk the Confederation's anger for strangers like us? Sarah thought about it. Because you're not strangers. You're people who need help. And because what you did at Theta 7 was right. You saved lives when everyone else ran away. That takes courage. Your species confuses me, Kethaval said softly. The galaxy calls you dangerous and unpredictable, but you offer shelter to exiles. You risk political problems to help strangers. This is not logical. Maybe not, Sarah agreed, but it's human. As the Kethamori fleet moved toward Earth's moon, Sarah felt both proud and worried. They were doing the right thing, but the Confederation would not be happy. Earth was still young in galactic terms, still trying to find their place among the stars. But watching the alien children's faces pressed against the ship windows as they saw their new temporary home, Sarah knew they had made the right choice. The Confederation could complain all they wanted. Some things were more important than politics. Dr. Okafor joined her on the bridge as they watched the first Kethmori shuttle dock at Luna Base. Think we'll regret this? He asked. Sarah watched a Kethmori mother carry her small child off the shuttle. The child was laughing at the low gravity, bouncing happily in his mother's arms. No, she said firmly. Whatever happens next, we won't regret helping people who needed help. She was right, though none of them could guess how much this single act of kindness would change the entire galaxy. 3 months had passed since the Kethmori fleet arrived at Earth. What started as temporary repairs had become something much bigger. The aliens were not just fixing their ships. They were building relationships with humans that surprised everyone. Dr. James Okafor walked through Luna Base's main corridor, watching human and Kethmori children playing together. The sight still amazed him. The children had created their own games, mixing human sports with Kethmori traditions. Language barriers meant nothing to kids who wanted to have fun. Dr. Okafor called a familiar voice. He turned to see Veltar approaching. She was a Kethmori warrior philosopher, one of their most respected leaders. Her blue skin was marked with silver scars that told the story of her battles, but her golden eyes were kind. Veltar, good morning. How are the combat lessons going? She smiled, showing sharp white teeth. Your soldiers are remarkable. They think differently than any warriors I have known. This was part of the cultural exchange program James had organized. Kethmori were teaching humans about their advanced weapons and fighting techniques. In return, humans were showing them Earth's military tactics and technology. Different how? James asked as they walked toward the training center. Other species follow rules in battle. They have formations and procedures they never change. But humans improvise. They see a problem and immediately think of 3 new solutions. Yesterday, Sergeant Miller found a way to use our energy shields as weapons instead of just defense. None of my people had ever thought of that. James nodded. He had heard similar reports from the human instructors. The Kethmori were incredibly skilled fighters, but they followed traditional patterns. Humans brought chaos and creativity that confused enemies. They entered the training center where Captain Sarah Chen was watching a joint exercise. Human and Kethmori soldiers worked together to clear a simulated enemy base. The cooperation was perfect. Humans provided tactical flexibility while Kethmori offered raw skill and courage. How are they doing? James asked Sarah. Better than I hoped. Look at Thompson and Kextar working together. Thompson spots the weak points in enemy defenses. Kextar has the skills to exploit them. They're becoming a real team. On the mat, Sergeant Thompson was explaining something to his Kethmori partner using hand signals and broken Kethmori words. Kextar listened carefully, then demonstrated a combat move that made Thompson's eyes go wide with admiration. It's not just military cooperation, Sarah continued. They're becoming friends. Real friends. Thompson spent his off-duty time yesterday learning Kethmori poetry from Kextar. Veltar laughed, a sound like silver bells. And Kextar has been trying to understand human movies.
He is very confused by something called romantic comedy. The cultural exchange was working both ways.
Humans were fascinated by Kethmori art, which used light and sound in ways that created emotions directly. Kethmori were amazed by human music, especially how humans used rhythm and melody to tell stories. But the biggest surprise was how similar the two species were in their basic values. Both believed strongly that the powerful should protect the weak. Both honored courage and loyalty above personal gain. Both had been criticized by other galactic species for being too emotional and unpredictable. Dr. Okafor's tablet chimed with an incoming message. His face grew serious as he read. "Problem?" Sarah asked. "The Confederation is demanding an immediate meeting. They want Earth to surrender the Keth Mori within the next 7 days or face economic sanctions." Veltar's expression hardened. "We will not cause trouble for your people. If we must leave, you're not leaving," Sarah said firmly. "Earth made a commitment to help you. We don't break our promises." That afternoon, Earth's leaders held an emergency meeting. President Martinez connected by video from Earth, while Captain Chen and Dr. Okafor represented the lunar base situation. The Keth Mori leadership, including war leader Kethval and Veltar, were also present. "The Confederation is serious about this," President Martinez said. "Chancellor Thexmil himself sent the ultimatum. He says harboring violent exiles threatens galactic peace." War leader Kethval stood slowly. "President Martinez, we are grateful beyond words for your help. But we will not see your people punished for our sake. We can leave and take our chances in the Outer Rim." "With what ships?" Dr. Okafor asked bluntly. "Half your fleet still needs major repairs. You'd lose thousands of people before reaching safe space." "Perhaps," Kethval said sadly. "But that is our burden, not yours." President Martinez leaned forward on the screen. "What if it didn't have to be anyone's burden? Dr. Okafor, how long would it take to finish the fleet repairs with our full resources? With both human and Keth Mori engineers working together? Maybe 6 more months. But sir, the Confederation won't wait that long." "Then we'd better make those 6 months count," the president said with a slight smile. "Captain Chen, I want you to prepare contingency plans. If the Confederation tries to take our guests by force, we need to be ready to protect them." Veltar looked shocked. "You would fight the entire Confederation for us?" Sarah stood up. "Ma'am, with respect, we've been studying galactic history for the past 3 months. The Confederation has a pattern. They demand absolute obedience and punish anyone who shows independence. If we give in now, Earth becomes their puppet forever. Besides," President Martinez added, "the Keth Mori have been sharing their technology with us. Our ships are already stronger than they were 3 months ago, and our people are learning combat techniques that could make a real difference." Dr. Okafor nodded. "The cultural exchange goes both ways. We're not just helping them. They're helping us become better at defending ourselves." That evening, James walked through the observation deck where many Keth Mori families gathered to look at Earth. The blue planet hung in space like a jewel. Beautiful and peaceful, a young Keth Mori, named Lixara, was drawing pictures of Earth with her human friend Jenny. The two girls were about the same age and had become inseparable despite speaking different languages. "Dr. Okafor," Lixara called in careful English. "Jenny says humans have many different skin colors. Is true?" "Very true," James said, sitting down with them. "Humans come in lots of different colors and speak hundreds of languages." "Like flowers," Lixara said thoughtfully. "Different, but all beautiful," Jenny nodded enthusiastically. "And Lixara taught me that Keth Mori can change their skin color when they're happy or sad. Watch." Lixara concentrated and her blue skin shifted to a warm purple color that meant contentment and friendship. James smiled. The children understood something the adults were still learning. Differences didn't have to mean conflict. Different species could work together and make each other stronger. But as he watched Earth hanging in space, James wondered how long this peaceful time would last. The Confederation was not known for patience, and Earth was still just one small world against an entire galaxy. Still, watching human and Keth Mori children play together, he felt hopeful. Whatever came next, these two species had found something special together. They had found friendship, understanding, and mutual respect. Maybe that would be enough to change everything. Chancellor Thexmil of the Galactic Confederation stood before the council chamber, his tall, thin frame radiating anger. The Zephyrani leader's silver skin had turned a dark gray color that showed his fury to everyone present. "Earth has ignored our ultimatum completely," he announced to the gathered representatives. "Not only do they still harbor the Keth Mori criminals, but our intelligence reports suggest they are sharing technology and military tactics. This cannot be allowed to continue." Councillor Vexai of the trade union raised a tentacle in concern. "Chancellor, perhaps we should try negotiations again." Earth is still new to galactic politics. They may not understand the importance of following Confederation law. Thexmill's narrow eyes flashed with contempt. They understand perfectly. They simply choose to defy us, just like their savage friends, the Kethmori. Both species are too violent and unpredictable for civilized space. In the Earth system, Admiral Sarah Chen, recently promoted after the crisis began, reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. Confederation fleets were gathering at several nearby star systems. The buildup was massive, over 200 ships from a dozen different species. Dr. James Okafor joined her in the command center of Luna Base. The Confederation is calling it an inspection fleet, he said grimly. They claim they just want to verify compliance with galactic law. With 200 ships? Sarah asked sarcastically. That's not an inspection, that's an invasion force. War leader Kethaval approached their table. Over the past months, he had become much more than just an ally. He was a trusted friend and advisor. His understanding of galactic politics had proven invaluable. Admiral Chen, my scouts report that Chancellor Thexmill himself is commanding the fleet. He would not come personally unless he planned something dramatic. Sarah nodded grimly. Earth's government had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The joint human Kethmori engineering teams had worked around the clock to upgrade both species' ships with new hybrid technologies. Human creativity combined with Kethmori, advanced materials had produced some amazing results. How do our preparations look? She asked. Lieutenant Commander Torres, now her chief tactical officer, pulled up a holographic display. We have 47 human ships fully upgraded with Kethmori energy weapons and shielding. The Kethmori have 32 ships with our new targeting computers and tactical systems installed. Veltar, who had become the liaison between both military forces, added her own report. Our joint training has exceeded all expectations. Human and Kethmori crews are working together like they've fought side by side for years instead of months. Dr. Okafor looked worried despite the positive reports. The Confederation still has us outnumbered more than 2-1, and they have ships from species we know very little about. Numbers aren't everything, Sarah replied. The Confederation ships are designed for police actions against worlds that don't fight back. They've never faced coordinated resistance from people who refuse to surrender. 3 days later, the Confederation fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Chancellor Thexmill's flagship, a massive vessel called the Harmony of Order, led the formation. It was an impressive sight. Hundreds of gleaming ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Thexmill opened communications immediately. His silver face filled Earth's screens, showing nothing but cold arrogance. I am Chancellor Thexmill of the Galactic Confederation. Earth has violated galactic law by harboring known criminals. You will surrender the Kethmori fleet immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Chen appeared on her own screen, standing straight and proud. Behind her, both human and Kethmori officers worked side by side at their stations. Chancellor, this is Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Forces. The Kethmori are our invited guests. Earth's position hasn't changed. They're staying. Thexmill's silver skin darkened with anger. Admiral, you seem to misunderstand the situation. We are not making a request. We are giving an order. Comply immediately or we will take the criminals by force. Then you'll have to go through us, Sarah said simply, and cut the connection. The battle began an hour later. The Confederation fleet moved forward in their traditional formation, a massive wall of ships designed to overwhelm enemies through sheer size and firepower. It was an impressive sight that had made countless worlds surrender without fighting. But Earth and the Kethmori didn't fight like other species. The joint fleet scattered in all directions, using tactics the Confederation had never seen. Human ships used hit-and-run attacks, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Kethmori vessels used their superior speed and maneuverability to attack from unexpected angles. Most importantly, the two species covered each other perfectly. When Confederation ships tried to surround a Kethmori vessel, human ships would appear from nowhere to break up the attack. When human ships needed time to recharge their weapons, Kethmori warriors provided cover. Chancellor Thexmill watched in growing frustration as his perfectly ordered formation fell apart. His ships were designed to fight enemies who stood still and exchanged fire like civilized beings. These savages kept moving, kept changing their tactics, kept doing things that made no sense. Sir, his tactical officer reported, We've lost 12 ships already, but enemy casualties are minimal. They're not fighting according to any known doctrine. That's because they have no discipline, Thexmill snapped. Press the attack. Use our numerical advantage. But numbers meant nothing when the enemy refused to stay in one place. Human fighters, enhanced with Kethmori energy weapons, cut through Confederation formations like knives. Kethmori boarding parties, equipped with human-designed powered armor, captured enemy ships faster than the Confederation could believe. The turning point came when Captain Torres, commanding the human destroyer Defiance, made a move that would be studied in military academies for years to come. Instead of running from 3 Confederation cruisers, he flew straight at them while broadcasting human music at maximum volume. The Confederation ships, confused by this apparently suicidal attack, tried to coordinate their fire, but Torres waited until the last second, then used a Kethmori gravity mine to slingshot around all 3 ships, while his gunners fired at point-blank range. All 3 enemy cruisers were destroyed in less than 30 seconds. Across the battlefield, human creativity and Kethmori skill were proving unstoppable. The Confederation's rigid tactics couldn't adapt to enemies who treated every rule of warfare as merely a suggestion. After 4 hours of fighting, Chancellor Thexmill made the painful decision to retreat. His inspection fleet had lost nearly 50 ships while barely scratching the enemy. It was the Confederation's first military defeat in over a century. As his fleet withdrew, Thexmill sent one final transmission to Earth. This isn't over. Admiral Chen, you've made an enemy of the entire Confederation today. We will return with everything we have. Sarah's response was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in the system would hear it. Chancellor, you started this fight when you tried to bully people who just needed help. If you want to finish it, that's your choice. But remember, you came here to take our friends away from us. We told you no, and we meant it. As the Confederation fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Sarah felt both proud and worried. They had won this battle, but she knew it was just the beginning. The Confederation would be back, and next time they would bring everything they had. But looking around her bridge at human and Kethmori officers working together, she felt confident they could handle whatever came next. They had something the Confederation didn't understand. They had friends willing to fight for each other. And sometimes that made all the difference in the galaxy. 6 months after the battle at Earth, Chancellor Thexmill stood in the war room of the Confederation's greatest military base. Holographic displays showed fleets gathering from across the galaxy, over 1,000 ships from 15 different species. It was the largest military force the Confederation had assembled in 300 years. Operation Pacification will demonstrate what happens to species that reject galactic order, Thexmill announced to his assembled commanders. We will crush both Earth and their savage allies completely. No survivors, no mercy. The galaxy must see that defying the Confederation leads only to destruction. General Klixara of the Hegemony nodded agreement. Our intelligence shows Earth has been reaching out to other outcast species. The Corvin Raiders, the Dwarven mining clans, even the nomadic Vexhai tribes. If this rebellion spreads, it could destroy everything we've built. What the Confederation didn't know was that their rebellion had already spread much further than they imagined. Admiral Sarah, Chen walked through the massive space station humanity and the Kethmori had built together in the asteroid belt. Haven Station was part fortress, part shipyard, and part meeting place for what people were calling the Outcast Alliance. The station buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of species worked together. In one section, fierce Corvin warriors shared raiding tactics with human special forces. In another, Dwarven engineers showed Kethmori technicians how to build weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Dr. James Okafor found Sarah in the Central Command Center, staring at a massive tactical display. The map showed Confederation fleets moving toward their position from 3 different directions. Scared? He asked quietly. Terrified, Sarah admitted, but also excited. Look at what we've built here, James. 6 months ago, Earth was alone. Now we have allies from all across the galaxy. Species that the Confederation threw away because they wouldn't conform. She gestured at the display showing their own forces. Human ships flew alongside Kethmori vessels, Corvin raider packs and Dwarven heavy cruisers. Vexhai nomad fleets provided scouting and communications across vast distances. Each species brings something unique, Sarah continued. The Kethmori have honor and skill. The Corvins understand pack hunting better than anyone. The dwarves build things that last forever. The Vexhai know every hidden route in this part of the galaxy. War leader Kethval joined them, his golden eyes bright with anticipation. Admiral, our scouts report the Confederation vanguard will arrive within 12 hours. How do you want to handle the first wave? Sarah smiled grimly. The same way we've been handling everything since this started. We don't fight fair. The Confederation fleet that emerged from hyperspace expected to find Earth's forces gathered around their home system, ready for a desperate last stand. Instead, they found empty space and abandoned stations. Where are they? Demanded Captain Vorth of the Confederation. Cruiser Righteous Order. Sensors show no major fleet concentrations anywhere in the system. His answer came in the form of coordinated attacks from every direction at once. Human stealth ships, invisible to Confederation sensors, struck from the asteroid belt. Corvin raiders appeared out of nowhere to savage the fleet's flanks. Keth Mori assault vessels hit the enemy's rear formations with devastating precision. But the real surprise was how perfectly the different species worked together. Where the Confederation saw chaos and disorder, the Outcast Alliance moved with deadly coordination. The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. Wave after wave of Confederation ships arrived, only to be caught in carefully prepared traps. Human tactics, refined by Corvin pack hunting techniques and supported by Keth Mori weapons technology, proved devastating against enemies who expected traditional warfare. Captain Torres, now commanding the hybrid battleship Unity, led a joint human Corvin squadron in a maneuver that became legendary. Using Vexhai navigation data, they appeared inside the Confederation formation and unleashed a barrage that destroyed 12 enemy ships before anyone could react. How are they doing this? General Klixara demanded from his command ship. Our forces outnumber theirs 3-1. They're not fighting like separate species, his tactical officer reported. They're fighting like pack hunters. Each group covers the other's weaknesses and amplifies their strengths. The truth was exactly what the officer described. The Outcast Alliance had spent months learning to fight as one force instead of separate fleets. Humans provided tactical innovation. Keth Mori offered individual skill. Corvins brought pack tactics. Dwarves contributed overwhelming firepower, and Vexhai gave them mobility and communications. Chancellor Thexmill arrived with the main Confederation battle fleet just as his vanguard was being destroyed. He watched in rage as his perfectly organized formations were torn apart by enemies who refused to fight properly. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy fleet. Put it through, Thexmill snarled. Admiral Chen appeared on the screen, but she wasn't alone. War leader Kethval stood beside her, along with Corvin Pack Alpha Grixtar, Dwarven clan chief Thorek Ironbeard, and Vexhai fleet mother Alexandra. Chancellor Thexmill, Sarah said calmly, you came here to destroy us for helping people who needed help. How's that working out for you? Thexmill's silver skin darkened with fury. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. We have 1,000 ships and we will use everyone to crush your pathetic alliance. Pack Alpha Grixtar spoke up, her scarred face showing fierce amusement. Confederation fool has never fought real pack hunters. You bring prey animals to hunt predators. Clan Chief Thorek's laugh boomed across the channel. Aye, and you've forgotten what it's like to fight people who have nothing left to lose. Fleet Mother Alexandra's musical voice added, the winds of space carry news of your failures to every world. Other outcasts hear and gather courage. Sarah stepped forward again. Chancellor, you had a choice. You could have left us alone to live in peace. Instead, you chose war. Now you get to see what happens when the species you threw away decide to work together. The battle continued for 2 more days, but the outcome was clear from the beginning. The Confederation's rigid tactics and overwhelming numbers meant nothing against enemies who fought with desperate courage and tactical innovation. More importantly, word of the battle was spreading across the galaxy through Vexhai communication networks. Other marginalized species were watching, seeing that the mighty Confederation could be defeated. On the mining world of Kepler's Rest, dwarven clans that had been bullied by Confederation tax collectors began preparing their war fleets. In the border regions, Corvin packs that had been branded as pirates for raiding Confederation supply lines started coordinating their attacks. Across the Outer Rim, nomadic peoples who had been forced from their ancestral roots began gathering for war. When Chancellor Thexmill finally ordered the retreat, He had lost over half his fleet. But worse than the military defeat was the political damage. For the first time in centuries, the Confederation had been beaten by the very species they claimed to protect the galaxy from. As his shattered fleets limped toward Confederation space, Thexmil sent an urgent message to the Council. The situation has evolved beyond a simple police action. These outcasts have formed a real military alliance. They fight with coordination and innovation we've never seen before. I recommend we mobilize every asset the Confederation has. If this rebellion succeeds, our entire way of life will be destroyed. Back at Haven Station, Sarah stood with her diverse group of allies watching the Confederation fleet retreat. She felt proud of what they'd accomplished, but also sobered by what lay ahead. "They'll be back," she said quietly. Kethval nodded. "Yes, but next time they will face not just us, but every species in the galaxy that has suffered under their rule. The hunt has begun, Admiral. But now we are the hunters." Sarah looked around at the faces of her allies, human, Kethmori, Corvin, Dwarven, and Vexhai. Each species was different, but they shared something the Confederation had forgotten. They remembered what it meant to fight for something bigger than themselves. 1 year after the first shots were fired at Earth, the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. Two massive fleets faced each other in the Zephrani system, home world of the Galactic Confederation. On one side flew the remnants of the Confederation's might, over 800 ships from their core worlds, representing everything they had left after a year of defeats across the galaxy. Leading them was Chancellor Thexmil in his flagship Eternal Order, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. On the other side was the Outcast Alliance, now grown to include over 50 different species that had risen up against Confederation rule. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded from the Bridge of New Horizon, a massive ship built jointly by humans, Kethmori, and Dwarven engineers, all fleet commanders. "Report status," Sarah called out. War leader Kethval's voice came through clearly from his ship Honor's Edge. "Kethmori battle groups ready. Our warriors are eager to show the Confederation what real honor looks like." Pack Alpha Grixtar's snarling voice followed. "Corvin hunt packs in position. We will feast on their fear today." Clan Chief Thoric's booming laugh echoed through the speakers. "Dwarven heavy squadrons ready to crack their precious ships like nuts." Fleet Mother Alexandra's musical tones added, "Vexhai scouts have mapped every sensor blind spot and escape route. The wind spirits guide us to victory." Dr. James Okafor, now serving as Sarah's strategic advisor, studied the tactical displays with amazement. "Look at this coordination," he murmured. "A year ago, these species had never worked together. Now they move like a single organism." Sarah nodded. The year of war had forged the diverse alliance into something unprecedented. Dozens of species fighting as one united force. Each brought their unique strengths while covering the other's weaknesses. But the real change wasn't just military. Across the galaxy, the Alliance had been proving that cooperation worked better than domination. Worlds that joined the Alliance saw improvements in trade, technology, and quality of life as different species shared their knowledge freely. Chancellor Thexmil opened communications from his flagship. His silver skin was now permanently darkened with stress and rage. Around him, the Bridge of the Eternal Order gleamed with cold perfection, every surface smooth, every line precise, everything designed to show Confederation superiority. "Admiral Chen," he said with barely controlled fury, "you have brought chaos to the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds have rejected Confederation guidance. Trade routes are disrupted. Order itself is breaking down because of your rebellion." Sarah appeared on his screen, but the contrast with his sterile bridge was striking. Behind her, humans worked alongside Kethmori, Corvins, Dwarves, and a dozen other species. The bridge was organized but alive, full of different voices and perspectives working toward a common goal. "Chancellor," she replied calmly, "we didn't bring chaos. We brought choice. For the first time in centuries, species can decide their own futures instead of following your orders. Choice leads to conflict." Thexmil snapped. The Confederation brought peace to the galaxy by ending the chaos of independent worlds. War leader Kethval stepped into view beside Sarah. "You brought the peace of the grave, Chancellor. The peace of species too afraid to think for themselves. Today ends your experiment in anarchy," Thexmil declared. The core worlds have authorized the use of planet-killer weapons if necessary. Surrender now or watch your entire fleet burn. Sarah's expression didn't change. Chancellor, you still don't understand. This isn't about military victory anymore. Look around your own fleet. How many of your crews do you think really believe in the Confederation's cause? How many are only fighting because they're afraid of you? She was more right than she knew. Across the Confederation fleet, morale was cracking. Many crew members had friends or family on worlds that had joined the Alliance. They had heard stories of the freedoms and opportunities available under the new system. Some were beginning to question why they were fighting to preserve a government that ruled through fear. The battle began with the Confederation fleet advancing. In their traditional formation, a massive wall of ships designed to overwhelm through sheer firepower. It was an impressive sight that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. But the Alliance didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered into a dozen different groups, each moving with perfect coordination. Human tactical innovation guided the overall strategy, while each species used their unique abilities. Corvin packs struck the fleet's edges like wolves, harassing and retreating before the enemy could respond. Vex-high ships appeared and disappeared through hyperspace routes only they knew, hitting targets behind enemy lines. Kethamori assault squadrons punched through weak points in the Confederation formation with devastating precision. The real shock came when dwarven heavy cruisers emerged from the asteroid fields around Zephrani Prime. The Confederation had never imagined anyone would dare attack their home system. But Clan Chief Thorek's ships had been mining the asteroids for weeks, building hidden bases right under their noses. Surprise. Thorek's voice boomed across all frequencies as his ships opened fire with weapons that could crack moons. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. The Alliance forces moved like a living thing, each part supporting the others in perfect harmony. When Corvin raiders needed cover, human fighters appeared. When Kethamori ships ran low on power, dwarven vessels provided energy. When anyone was surrounded, Vex-high ships opened escape routes through space itself. Chancellor Thexmil watched his perfect formation crumble with growing desperation. All ships maintain formation, follow standard battle doctrine, but his crews were seeing something they had never encountered. An enemy that treated warfare as art rather than science. The Alliance didn't follow rules or procedures. They improvised, adapted, and overcame obstacles through creativity and cooperation. Captain Torres, now commanding a joint squadron of human and Kethamori ships, led an attack that would be remembered forever. Using a maneuver taught by Corvin pack hunters and powered by dwarven weapons, his ships cut through the heart of the Confederation fleet like a sword through silk. The turning point came when several Confederation ships simply stopped fighting. Their crews, mostly from species that had been forced into service, began surrendering rather than continue the battle. "This is Captain Wilex of the cruiser Harmony," came a transmission from the Confederation fleet. "My crew refuses to fight any longer. We request permission to join the Alliance." Within minutes, similar transmissions came from dozens of other ships. The Confederation's forced unity was falling apart as crews chose freedom over fear. Thexmil watched his fleet dissolving around him with growing madness. "All loyal ships fall back to defend Zephrani Prime. Use the planet-killer weapons if necessary." But it was too late. Alliance boarding parties led by Kethamori warriors and human marines had already captured the weapon platforms. The mighty Confederation was crumbling not through destruction, but through defection. The final act came when Admiral Chen's task force surrounded the Eternal Order. Thexmil found himself alone. His support ships either destroyed, captured, or defected to the Alliance. Sarah's final transmission was broadcast to every ship in the system. "Chancellor Thexmil, this is Admiral Chen. You're surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and we'll guarantee fair treatment for you and your crew." Thexmil appeared on screen one last time, his silver skin now completely black with rage and despair. "You think you've won? Without the Confederation, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Species will war against each other until nothing remains." "Maybe," Sarah admitted, "but that will be their choice to make. And from what I've seen this past year, I think species can do a lot better when they're working together, instead of following orders from people who see them as inferiors." Thexmil's ship powered down its weapons. The war was over. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, built in orbit around Earth. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going peacefully. The station served as the headquarters of the Free Alliance, the new organization that had replaced the Confederation. Dr. James Okafor joined her, carrying reports from across the galaxy. "Trade between Alliance worlds is up 300%, he said with satisfaction. Technological advancement has accelerated as species share knowledge freely. And we haven't had a single war between member species." Sarah nodded. "Turns out species get along pretty well when they're not being forced to obey a central authority that treats them like children." War leader Kethaval approached with his young daughter, Lixara, who had become best friends with many human children during their time on Earth. The little girl was chattering excitedly in a mixture of Kethmori and English about a school project she was working on with kids from 7 different species. "Admiral," Kethaval said formally, "the Kethmori Council has voted. We would like to make our partnership with Earth permanent. Your people showed us that strength comes not from standing alone, but from standing together." Sarah smiled, watching as Lixara ran off to play with human, Corvan, Dwarven, and Vex High children in the station's recreation area. "I think that can be arranged, War Leader."